Converting fractions to decimals is simply taking a fraction and writing it in a different form, but that has the same value. And it's going to require a little bit of some vocabulary that you hopefully are pretty familiar with. Remember, a fraction has two parts. The top number is your numerator. The bottom number is your denominator. But in reality, a fraction is just another way to write a division problem. Okay, where with these division problems, the numerator is divided by the denominator. So your numerator is divided by your denominator. In this case, it would be 1 divided by 4. So let's look at some examples. This would be 2 divided by 5. So we would set this up as 2 divided by 5. Well, you all know that 2 is less than 5, so it cannot be divided without adding a decimal point and a 0. Then I'm going to take that decimal point and I'm going to bring it up into my quotient. And now I think of this as 20 divided by 5. Well, 20 divided by 5 is 4. That 4 goes right here above that 0. We got to keep our work lined up when we divide. 4 times 5 then is 20. We subtract and we're left with 0. So that means that 2/5 is the same as 4/10. Let's look at another example. Here we have a whole number and the fraction 7/8. For now, we can ignore the whole number and just concentrate on this fraction 7/8. This means 7 divided by 8. So it would be 7 divided by 8. Well, 7 is less than 8, so I need to add a decimal and a 0, and I'm going to bring this up. It makes sense that our answer is less than 1 because our dividend is less than our divisor. So now I'm going to look at this like 70 divided by 8. 70 divided by 8 would be 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Subtract, and we're left with 6. I cannot have a remainder. I want to keep going. So I'm going to add a 0, and I'm going to bring that down. 60 divided by 8 is 7. 7 times 8 is 56. Subtract and I get 4. Add another 0 and bring it down. I don't want a remainder, so I'm going to keep going. 40 divided by 8 is 5. 5 times 8 is 40. Subtract and we're left with 0. So the fraction part of 3 7/8 is the same as 0.875. My whole number, I simply need to bring over and put in front of my decimal point. And then I have 875 behind it. Go ahead and pause the video here. Try this problem on your own. I do want you to write out the division statement in words before you do the math. When you're done, restart the video. Check your work. Did you get the same answer that I did? You should have had 0 and 15/100 or 0.15. Sometimes you're going to see a situation like this where you have a table. It says that Mike asked 25 students what their favorite color is, and the table below shows the results of the survey. What decimal represents the fraction of students who prefer red? Okay, so we know we're looking here at the red information, and we know that 25 students were surveyed. Well, what this is telling me is that 16 of the 25 students prefer red. That's my fraction representation. I need the decimal. That's what the question is asking for. So this is going to be 16 divided by 25. 16 divided by 25. Well, 16 is less, so a decimal and a 0, and we bring that decimal point up into our quotient. Then we have 160 divided by 25. 25s are easy. Just think of them as quarters. 160 divided by 25 would be 6. 6 times 25 is 150. Subtract, and I have 10 left, so I'm going to add another 0 and bring it down. 100 divided by 25 is 4. Subtract, and I'm left with nothing. So that means that 16 25ths is the same as 64 hundredths. Sometimes you will have decimals that never end. These are called non-terminating decimals. All of your work today will not have any non-terminating decimals, except for 2 very special decimal fraction conversions. And these are ones that you just need to memorize. 1/3 is the same as 0.33333, repeating, it never ends. So we represent it with a decimal point and a 3, but that 3 has a line up above it. That line, that repetant, expresses the idea that that 3 goes on and on forever and never ends. So since 1/3 is 0.3, 2/3 is 0.6. Also with that line above the 6 to show that that number goes on and on forever and never ever ends.